Let's check in with your sport now and focus in on this, because on Sunday, Siwelele FC chairman Kelvin Lejon took to social media with a 3-minute-long video, part of which spoke about threats towards two veterans of the game in the country, Stan Matthews and Andre Arendse.
For the bad news, we have parted ways with our CEO, Stan Matthews, and our assistant coach, Andre Arendse. They have been very great men to work with, but I cannot, in good conscience, keep them on board when their lives and their families' lives are being threatened on a daily basis. We are also going to terminate the contracts of various players who have not shown the heart and the willingness to fight for this team.
Well, the South African Football Players Union has issued a sharp warning to the team, accusing them of reckless governance and blatant disregard for players' contracts. At the heart of the dispute are the allegations of unsafe travel policies, unfair dismissals and public statements that SAFPU say undermine the dignity and the livelihoods of footballers. Joining us now is SAFPU Secretary General Nhlanhla Shabalala. A very good morning to you, Nhlanhla, and welcome to the AM report. Good to be chatting to you once again. Have you had a chance to speak to Stan or Andre and get their response to the parting of ways with Siwelele?
Good morning, Vele, and the listeners at home and the viewers. No, at this point, we have not spoken to either Stan or Andre Arendse, but we've made our services available should there be the need, because there were reports that their contracts were terminated. What we don't know at this point is if it was unilateral, or if it was an engaged process where the both parties actually agreed on the terms of that particular termination. So we will establish communication with them. They are senior and they're very experienced personnel. I think they probably know what to do. So if they need the services of the organization, we are there to help at all times.
Have you had Siwelele players coming to you? Because as much as we had this video released by Kelvin Lejon on a Sunday, in the morning there was actually a report that some players weren't paid at the team.
No, we are not aware of that. There is no formal complaint that has been brought to SAFPU's attention in relation to payments. What we are aware of is the threats that they were making, talking about that there will be a mass, termination of contracts at the club, and that is one thing that we're focused on. We were in contact with the players as well on the similar situation, just ensuring that we are keeping our eye, on this matter and our ears widely open, because we would need to expedite should there be any breach constituted by the club.
Yes, in your statements, it's a strongly worded one. Have you had any response from Siwelele?
Not at this point. We have not had a response from Siwelele. And it's quite unfortunate that sometimes, teams, when they buy their statuses, they are, most cases, misinformed about the role of the union, because we also tried to meet with them when the process was ongoing so that we could clarify a number of things to ensure that we avoid, these type of things from happening. And it would seem they were not really interested, or probably they were just too busy organizing their things. I don't know. But we would have played a very big role to ensure that things are well aligned and properly structured. However, we get feedback from the PSL in terms of where the process is and all other things. But it would be good if they really get in touch with us so that our first encounter is not in the court of law, because we will not hesitate should they actually breach the contracts of the players.
Nhlanhla, as much as it was said that there would be a number of players who, according to the chairman, didn't show enough heart for the team who would be let go of, yesterday's transfer deadline came and went, and we haven't heard any movements of players from Siwelele.
Yes, you are quite correct. We monitored the situation on the transfer window deadline day. We spoke to the players, and we also understand that there was a meeting called by the club, and they were informed that the only changes in personnel will be in the management aspect. In the players, nobody's contract is going to be terminated at this point or later, I suppose, but they will bring in a few additions from, other teams on loan, just to ensure that they beef up the squad and really move away from the position that they find themselves in. So, like you are saying, we have not had any formal report in relation to any contractual termination, except the feedback that we have received from the members in saying that the team had indicated that there'll be no terminations at this point.
Nhlanhla, you have described, or rather in the statement, you described the 600-kilometre road travel policy as a blatant assault on player welfare. There are other teams that do travel by road between different matches.
Yes, indeed, there are teams who travel by road. Mostly it would be the teams in the NFD. It would be duly to cost or probably sometimes a distance that is not so long. I mean, if we put it to you now, for an example, if Siwelele has to go and play in KZN, that trip is most likely about 6 to 7 hours to get there by bus with the stops and all sorts of things. And we also understand they were having mechanical issues with their buses on 2 trips. I don't know how that is going to really be resolved, because that means the players are staying longer than they should in those trips. But if they play in Durban and 3 days later they're expected to play Polokwane, it means they will then move from Durban to Polokwane. We are talking 10, probably 11 hours by bus. It cannot be corrected that such practices are taking place. They must be protected, because at the end of the day, they expect an elite performance from these players. If that is the case, the conditions of employment must be put in order to allow these players to perform optimally. You can't subject them to such traveling conditions and you expect the greatest results, because this causes a lot of injuries. Also, recovery time is less, and it goes against the principle of ensuring that working conditions for players are proper. You know, the field they train in has to be good, the bus, the type of accommodation they get, because rest is a very key, important and key part of any sports person.
Nhlanhla, why didn't you guys raise the alarm after that incident that happened just before the international break, which involved Orlando Pirates? They played against Chipper, and it was said that there was an accident where a number of people were injured because the bus had stopped, and we had the head coach and some other people get out and assist. They were coming all the way from the Eastern Cape to Gauteng. That's much more than 600 Ks.
Yeah, I would not even know how that came about. I mean, the focus was mainly the injuries and the lives of those players. We were really happy that nothing had happened at that point. In terms of the distance, I think probably in hindsight, it's not something that we really picked up, because there was not even a formal complaint in relation to that. You must remember, we don't keep track of all things. And we also rely on members, you know, to give us the information in terms of the things that are niggling or troubling issues, especially when policies are broken, because the league is very clear in terms of these things. And as it were, it gives us an opportunity to really engage with the PSL, because it would seem that this is becoming a very loose matter that is being handled. Every team deals with it however they want, and it cannot be correct. That will end up having 70% of the teams in the MFC and as well as the Betway Premier League traveling by bus 12, 13, 14 hours. It's just not something that has to happen, and we need to really tighten the belt when it comes to such, because it's not only them, correctly so, as you've mentioned. There are other teams who are traveling longer distances, and it's something that must be dealt with immediately, you know, without any delay, because it's really nonsensical.
Nhlanhla, what is the current standard that the PSL actually has when it comes to Betway Premiership teams? So let's just deal with top flight football, that they have regarding how long their players can be like in a trip on a bus on the road.
I would not know and quote the exact hours, but I would know that shorter distances where you travel 3 hours, like normally, the norm is due to availability of transportation and also the distance. You know, the teams that are in Joburg, when they go to Polokwane, it's normal that they will travel by bus, and they make proper and thorough arrangements before, because there is no functional or really available source in terms of the flights. You can't go to Cape Town with a bus. You can't go to Durban with a bus because it's very long. So anything between 2, 3, or 4 hours is not really that hectic. But the longer distances become a bit of a problem. And this has been addressed, inclusive of the standard of the accommodation level, because that's also another factor that we don't really pay attention to. Sometimes these teams are taken to a one-star place where they stay, which is really, really horrible conditions. And the league provides that it must be decent. It must have dignity, and it must be really, really conducive with the standards of the PSL. Anything within 3 stars to 5 stars, should there be a need. And that's exactly what we must stick to and adhere to, including the transportation aspect.
Okay.
It needs to really be dealt with, and these people need to comply.
Okay, Nhlanhla, we're quickly running out of time, but I just have to ask you this. One of the most jarring things from the statement that was made by the Siwelele FC chairman was that there were threats on the lives of Stan Matthews, Andre Arendse, and their families, and it was as a precautionary measure and as a measure to protect them that the club parted ways with these two individuals. I say it was jarring because we have never heard of such things, of administrators and coaches having threats on their lives.
Yeah, it was very concerning indeed. I mean, this is one of the things we asked for in terms of clarity in the statement that we'd given, to say this, it is really deep, and these are things we would not want to see, in our football. We want coaches to be given the freedom to do their job. Management can engage them if they're not happy with the results, inclusive of the CEO. Now, when you're talking threats, it simply means that we've got thugs now who are part of this game, the beautiful game that we love. And it's not something that I think we should really, really take kindly to. And we would need really clarity in terms of that, as we'll be engaging with Andre as well as Stan. And we will go to the team, regardless of them ignoring, the calls, whether it is by mutual consent or forcefully so, because we've been really reasonable enough, because we need information. The source of information that we get, I think it allows us to be able to perform our functions optimally. And if you don't have that, we are found wanting. So we will really ensure that we enforce such practices.